Okay, welcome everyone. Today's topic is the transformation in the telecom industry, and especially how this transformation is an enabler for economic growth. And to discuss this topic to me, I am joined today by Sandro Tavares, who is the Director of Telecom Systems Marketing at Dell Technology. Hi, Sandro.
Hi, Bernard. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, no, it's so good. We've got so many interesting topics to cover. We'll talk about 5G, I guess. We'll talk about edge computing and
Exactly.
the telecom industry itself as an enabler of change that is going through a lot of change yourself, itself. Where are you joining us from today, Sandro?
Yeah, I'm joining you from Dallas, Texas. So, yeah, south of the United States.
Very good. What's the weather like there?
Today is actually pretty pleasant. Here we have like pretty hot summers and winters. Sometimes they can get a little bit colder. Now we are in the beginning the autumn, right? So it's okay. I mean, getting to 25 degrees, so it's pretty good, pretty
Nice,
pleasant.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a beautiful day here in London today.
Hmm.
Beautiful sunshine, which is nice.
Nice, awesome. Yeah.
And anyone joining us live, please let us know where you are joining us from. Let us know what you think about this conversation. Participate, ask questions. This makes it a lot more interesting for us. Um, and talking about Dell and what do you do at Dell? And what's your background? I think you're originally from Brazil, right?
Yeah, I'm originally from Brazil. I'm an electrical engineer by trade, like by my academic studies, and I've joined the telecommunication industry like really the very beginning of my career. Have been doing telecommunications basically all my life, or
Mm.
most of my life now. And yeah, so I was born in Brazil. I left Brazil in 2007. Lived in Argentina for a couple of years, in Finland for a few years as well, and then about 10 years ago, I moved to the US and we've been here since.
Very good.
Yeah.
So you said you've been in the telecom industry all your life. So can you give us an overview of some of the key changes you see happening in the telecom industry right now?
Yeah, we're living a pretty interesting and really exciting time in the telecommunications industry right now. So, uh, especially if you look into how things have evolved since, like, the beginning of telecommunications back like a long time ago. Uh, this has been an industry that has basically been focused in one service, right? So it was voice back then, and then things have been evolving. Now it's heavily focused on data, but it's an industry that focuses on delivering one service, which is usually a commodity, right? And now we are getting to a point of significant transformation where, with all the technologies that are coming together, like edge computing, 5G, and so on, and the whole push that is happening in the world about having more efficiency basically being implemented across several different verticals, all the story about the fourth industrial revolution and so on, we created a kind of a perfect storm for telecommunications to transform and for the business of the telecommunication companies to actually change significantly from simply providing connectivity into becoming really an industry that can actually be embedded deeper into processes of several other verticals and providing connectivity, but also advanced services to drive the creation of new applications, new services, and at the end of the day, creating more wealth, right? So it is an exciting time for telecoms. I used to say that, especially if you look into the mobile side, when you were like navigating the transformation from 2G, 3G, 4G, those were like linear steps. Now we are getting to an exponential step with 5G. So it's really exciting to be part of this industry right now.
Very good. Why do you see this as an exponential step?
Basically because the opportunities that are ahead of the telecommunication players, so be them solution providers, be them really the operators that we deal with every day, like the Vodafones, the AT&Ts, Verizons of the world, are exponentially larger than what they had in the previous generation. So when we were with 2G, we're basically selling voice. The 3G, it was the start of the transformation towards a data-driven offering, but it was still like mainly voice, text messages, and so on. When we got to 4G, we had a consolidation of mobile broadband, which brought a new set of applications and so on. But if you look into the core of the telecommunications industry, it was still only about providing connectivity. Basically, these companies are just now focusing on selling data instead of selling voice. Now they have like the building blocks and really like their position in the ecosystem set in such a way that they can transform their offerings. So they will provide connectivity. This is in their core, but like they are able to become true partners from their customers, be them consumers or enterprise customers, to provide more advanced services and actually grow their business significantly from just becoming like a provider of basic connectivity into becoming a provider of complete digital solutions for a transformed industry, right? So
Very good. So, what do you see as the key transformative forces behind these changes that you're seeing?
yeah, so there's a few of them, right? So the very first one is the let's say the advent of edge computing, right? The whole trend about, first of all, getting more compute capacity being consolidated into smaller footprints, and then the ability of deploying them closer to where the traffic really is, to where people really are, to where companies are, and so on. That creates the possibility of the development of services that are operating under much lower latency, and that is key for several use cases around automation, transformation of manufacturing processes, video analytics, and so on. So that is one. The other one is 5G. So 5G provides the connectivity. So it was kind of the missing link between having the compute capacity available and deployed at the edge, and actually getting to the end user, getting to be it the consumer or the enterprise, and providing a connectivity layer that is extremely reliable, extremely performant, and that actually delivers on lower latency, right? So if we compare like the previous technology for wireless access with 4G, where usually dealing with 20 to 30 milliseconds of latency, 5G promises that you're going to get this to a single digit level, which allows you to transform and to create applications that are really, they're real time, right? They're responding in real time, and that can actually influence several different processes in several industries, and make them more efficient, making them more agile in general, right? And the other the third pillar of the story is really on cloud native technologies, right? So the telecom industry has been historically focused on developing solutions based on well, highly dependent hardware and software layers. So basically proprietary hardware running proprietary software that is built for a specific function, right? And if you see today, like most of the mobile base stations that you see in the world, they are built like that. So you have like proprietary hardware, proprietary software. It's a closed box running proprietary interfaces. And that's basically what it is. That, of course, has worked well so far. But when we move towards an environment where you're required to be more agile, where you're required to build capacity faster, to reconfigure a network faster, to launch new services, you need to be more flexible. And then the trend that is actually addressing there is the adoption of cloud native technologies into the telecom network, and the adoption of, or really like the disaggregation of the network functions. So you're disaggregating hardware from software, so using standard hardware based on x86 platforms to the most extent, and then utilizing cloud native approach to actually build your software, meaning that you have the ability of being much more agile in deploying functionalities, in doing software updates, in scaling capacity based to fulfill the needs of your customers that are now, probably not as predictable as they were before. So it's kind of three pillars that are really driving, from the technology point of view, the transformation on the telecom domain. On top of that, if you look into the business aspects, of course, there is always the force about trying to, shareholders, stakeholders for the telecom companies that are pushing them to create more revenue. That's a fact of life, right? But there is also a strong trend around the adoption of open standards on the telecom domain. So as I mentioned, so you had like a very strong dependency between hardware and software, proprietary hardware, proprietary software, but also proprietary interfaces between different building blocks of the network that basically made telecom operators to be stuck with a vendor whenever they make a decision to deploy a specific solution in an area. Changing the solution or change the vendor became something very difficult, right? Because you basically have to change the whole package, reintegrate everything, and so on. The industry has been pushing towards opening up these interfaces. So there are like initiatives around, for example, Open RAN, which means opening the radio access network. So you can actually have, first of all, different vendors playing parts in the same network, running the communication between these building blocks over open interfaces, but also you basically remove an entry barrier for new players, right? Because once you have open interfaces, it means that if I create a small company that specializes in building just one block of software that is highly optimized for a functionality in the mobile network, I actually can access the market now, because the interfaces for me to integrate this software block into the network are going to be open. So there are several forces, and that are really like getting together into really creating this renewed push towards telecom transformation that has been happening for the last couple of years.
Very good. So we've got the cloud, which we've had for some time, then a push towards more edge computing, where we process data in devices on the edge of the network, and then we've got networks and 5G in particular that bring it all together, right?
Yes. Yes.
Very good. So what business opportunities do you see for things like edge computing?
Yeah. Well, there are several, right? So the big thing that edge computing does is bringing, well, as the name says, bring compute capacity closer to where the data is actually being generated and consumed, right? And that brings benefits in terms of, first of all, the cost of moving data, right? So if you're treating applications, if you're treating data locally, you're saving in terms of having to send your data all the way back to a centralized data center and so on. So especially as data creation and data consumption explodes, the fact that you're able to treat and to run applications closer to where the action is happening is a big benefit. And the other aspect is the latency, as I pointed out, right? So for some applications, let's say, for example, a video analytics tool that is running in a factory environment to detect potential situations of risk to the employees, right? You want these actions to be taken in real time. So if you have in there like video analytics solution that is monitoring a production line and it notices that a hand is somewhere it's not supposed to be, that can actually generate an accident, you want these solutions to take an action immediately, right, in the single millisecond range. For that, you need to actually have this data being analyzed locally, right? So you don't want a video feed that is happening in London to be analyzed all the way back in Seattle and back to London, because then at that point the accident already happened. So that is a key benefit of the edge, right? So addressing kind of the latency, and once that is done, there are several applications that can be deployed that take advantage of the low latency, right, and of the fact that you're treating data locally. That one that I just mentioned is an example. So video analytics applications, applications that control robots, for example, especially like on the factory floor, there is a lot of benefits out there. I've seen a lot also on the healthcare industry, right? So not only for people talk a lot about like remote surgeries. I think that's kind of more of a North Star use case, because it carries a lot of like different boundary conditions around it. But there's like other applications that for the healthcare industry that would leverage the edge and would leverage 5G capabilities that are much simpler than that. Like, for example, I've seen examples of applications that help with mental health treatments for anxiety, for example, where you're using a VR headset and some sensors around your head that are basically monitoring your reaction to the video that is being played in the VR headset. And the whole point is to treat you to control your own anxiety, right? So based on your reaction to the exercises that are being shown to you on the VR headset, you actually have this data being analyzed and providing you an immediate feedback. So if you start to feel more relaxed, you're going to see that on the screen. And you need that response to be very fast, so you can actually map what is happening in your body to what you're seeing on the screen. Another one for like rehabilitation after big surgeries, where you actually, in this case, use AR to, instead of having a medical professional being face-to-face with a customer that, for example, is rehabbing from a knee surgery, you use AR capabilities to be able to, for example, monitor the range of movement of the knee after a certain exercise. So you're looking at that, and you can calculate exactly, the application calculate exactly what is the range and if you're having progress or not. And it shows if you're actually doing your exercise correctly or not. So there's several applications, right? And all of that, I mean, it's really creating new opportunities for companies across the board. So of course, telecom operators, they can host these applications and they can make a business out of it. But you have companies that are actually looking to this technology. So in most of the cases, startups, and they're leveraging these technologies to, create these new applications. So I used to say that in the same way that when 4G came out, we had no idea of most of the applications we have running on smartphones right now. We are going to see the same movement after 5G, right? With like lots of innovation happening based on this foundation that is being built.
Very good. So really what we're talking about here is that this transformation in the telecom industry is really optimizing the whole system. We've had, even with 4G, we've had cloud-based infrastructure, we've had edge devices like smartphones, but in the past, if you wanted to use machine vision or natural language processing, it will record this on your phone, send it over a slow network to the cloud, process it on the cloud. Now we can optimize all of this. We can do lots of the AI and the machine vision and even the natural language processing on the device, because the edge devices are becoming much more powerful. Then we have much faster networks that give us the benefits of actually leveraging the amazing cloud technologies. We see this in in the emerging space of gaming, for example, that we now have online gaming. So I believe that in the future we will not be reliant on consoles to do gaming. You can do this anywhere over 5G. And then, as you've already mentioned, VR. I think at the moment most of it, you see a VR headset in my background here, but this is still reliant on Wi-Fi. In
Yeah,
the future, they will become completely untethered. You will use them over 5G. They will become lighter. So all these
yeah.
innovations will be enabled by this technology that we're talking about here.
Exactly, and you touched an application that for me is going to be the big one for consumers, which is cloud gaming, right? So
Mhm.
just last night, I was fighting to buy a last generation console for my godson, right? And uh, and this is a huge market, right, with a huge untapped opportunity. So uh, gaming, of course, I mean, it's not everybody that is going to be willing and able to spend a lot of money in getting like the latest gaming device and the latest games and so on. So cloud gaming comes to actually tap this part of the market that is really on a that is a demand that is not really taken care of today, right? So and 5G will bring exactly what it's needed in terms of data capacity and latency to enable that. So for sure, I mean, cloud gaming is going to be huge. For me, cloud gaming will be on 5G what streaming was on 4G, right? So streaming really peaked on 4G and became what it is today. Uh, Cloud gaming will be the same on 5G, right?
And I mean, we touched on a few verticals already, like healthcare, gaming. What does it mean for other verticals? What other things are you seeing? Who can really benefit from edge technology other than the
Mhm.
ones we've already mentioned?
Yeah, I would say that basically all verticals are going to have some kind of benefit out of it. We expect that by 2030, this is going to be a market of about $700 billion a year. So in edge, just the edge investments, right? Verticals like, for example, retail, right? We're already seeing some investments happening in retail to deploy edge and to deploy private wireless applications. So first of all, they can optimize the way that the basically the data infrastructure inside major stores is created, right? So basically getting rid of cables and treating data locally, so they actually can have AI applications, they can have analytics applications running locally in the store in an edge server, and providing information real time about what is happening in terms of optimizing the flow of people in the store, optimizing the location of products, and so on, right? And even allowing them to be more flexible in opening new stores. So there is a case for a major retailer here in the US that is investing in private wireless, not only to create these additional flexibility inside their stores, but to allow them to also bring up pop-up stores faster, right? Because if they're using, like, for example, 5G to connect all of their systems, if they have an opportunity to create like a pop-up store in an event or in a state fair or whatnot, I mean, it's much easier to actually go and get this all set up, right? So retail is definitely a domain where you're going to see a lot of transformation as well. On the manufacturing in general, we touched a little bit upon that, but manufacturing is a big area of deployment of edge and 5G, not only for new applications like, for example, video analytics and so on, but really to allow them to become more agile in terms of adjusting the production line to the demand that is coming from from the market, launching new products into or starting producing new products in the factory and so on. So there is a big one. Just this week there was an announcement going out by one big telecom vendor talking about VW, so Volkswagen, actually deploying private 5G in their factories to basically optimize production. If you look into the automotive industry as well, so beyond like manufacturing the cars, but actually solutions to optimize traffic, and even getting to a point in the future about having more autonomous vehicles driving on the street. I used to say that one thing is having like one fully autonomous vehicle running in a street where every other car is actually handled by humans. Another totally different challenge is a scenario where most of the vehicles are autonomous, right? You need to make sure that there is like real-time connectivity between these cars so they actually can take decisions faster. It's not only about watching what is going out there. Watching what is going around is great, but actually having data coming to you that allows you to predict what is happening 100 meters down the road is actually very important too. And we could go over and over, right? So basically every single vertical out there is going to be impacted by these technologies. You're on mute.
What do you see as the key adoption challenges then? How can we make sure that this benefits everyone across all verticals, for example?
Yeah. So I would say that the key adoption challenge is actually the deployment of the technology. So some companies, especially like larger companies, they do have the ability of deploying themselves, right? By, of course, partnering with a I don't know if, okay, I kind of froze for a sec. And especially if you go down the enterprises and smaller companies as well. I mean, they need help to actually be able to deploy this. They don't have like huge engineering departments. They have the ability, for example, of running a private wireless network. And that's where, for example, telecommunication companies play a role, integrator companies play a role. So actually helping and really deliver on the implementation of these technologies out there. So these are not like simple solutions and necessarily needed.
And what role do you think the whole telecommunication industry plays in enabling edge adoption?
They play a significant role, right? So to start with, telecommunication companies, they do have relationships with most of these enterprises today and with consumers as well, right? So they are already providing connectivity and they know these customers. And the other thing is that by nature, the telecommunication network is very distributed. So they have points of presence very close to where customers are. So they do have the ability of deploying the edge infrastructure and host the applications for these customers. And another thing that they have is, even if we go towards applications that are more demanding in terms of guaranteed throughput, guaranteed quality of service, with 5G, we have the ability of creating network slices, which basically means that logically you can dedicate a part of the network to a specific customer or to a specific service, right? Meaning that, for example, if we get to like the North Star of ever performing a remote surgery, the performance of the service and actually the execution of the surgery is not going to be impacted by a kid playing Fortnite in the next door, right? So you create actually dedicated resources for that. So all of that creates a whole arsenal of solutions that can help companies deploy their edge strategy and execute their edge strategy. So that's where kind of like the exponential transformation, the exponential growth that the telecommunications industry can experiment comes from, right? So they're close. They have the relationships. They actually have the physical presence that allows them to become the provider that will be hosting and delivering these applications to their customers.
Very good. So what are some of the technologies behind this transformation of the telecom network to support enterprise use cases?
Well, yeah, it's basically the adoption of cloud native standards in their network, so they are agile enough to respond to these demands and to deploy new services fast, right? So 5G, of course, plays a huge role, right? Because that's the connectivity layer that is going to be used. Of course, there's going to be fiber involved on that too. But 5G is kind of the wireless connectivity layer that allows for services to actually be available everywhere. Think, for example, in a situation with a hospital or even like the health system of a town, right? Where you have hospitals, but you also have ambulances and so on, and everything has to be connected. So 5G actually plays a role either by just simply using a public 5G network or by the creation of a network slice to make sure that the connectivity across all the points of this customer are working fine. Remote workforces as well. Is another area. So 5G and the wireless access in general plays a significant role. And on the if you look specifically like inside how the telecom operator is operating, right? So it really is also like the transformation of the support systems that basically make the business of the operator work, right? So network management systems, billing systems, provisioning systems, and so on. So all of them need to be transformed and need to become more flexible to support this environment, right? To support this new way of actually being positioned on the market, where we're not a service, a company that is basically providing one or a handful of services, and become a company that can actually provide custom services for their customers, right?
Yeah, and it's super exciting to have all of these new technologies, but I guess technology is not enough on its own. What else do we need to make this all happen?
Yeah, it's certainly not enough to just have the technology, right? Technology helps, right? But processes are very important. So it is not simply about going out and deploying the latest software or moving your infrastructure from a traditional or even like simply virtualized infrastructure into cloud native. It is important that internal processes are taken care of, so you actually embed innovation and embed this agility of creating new services, of really adapting to the needs of each and every customer into the core of the way that the business is run. And that also passes through culture, right? And passes through getting people ready, right? So there's this old saying that uh, culture eats the strategy for breakfast, right? And that's it. I mean, you can build like the perfect strategy to transform the telecommunications business, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure that your team people actually they are embedded in this change and they understand how important this is and what needs to be done to really transform the business, right, and help customers.
Very good. So how is Dell Technologies getting ready for this? How do you position yourself as an enabler for this
Yeah.
edge and how telecom transformation?
Yeah, so Dell is making a huge investment in uh, positioning itself to help with this transformation. So, as you all know, so Dell Technologies has been helping customers, especially like in the cloudification and digital transformation of their businesses for a while, right? And this year we announced a renewed strategy for telecom that really looks into combining our experience in digital transformation with telecom experience that we are building in the company to really help our customers navigate through this transition. So there is a team that is focused on that was built this year, right, and that can execute across several different areas of the telecom transformation, from like consulting for these processes that I was talking about, really providing the cloud native foundations and the cloud native applications to actually run the network. And in that side, we are working with an open ecosystem of partners to pre-certify and pre-integrate applications to take them to customer premises. All of that anchored into a state-of-the-art lab that we're building in Texas right now, to really become the center of this open ecosystem where customers and partners can come to test new services, certify applications, and before they actually get pushed to the network, right? And really becoming and positioning ourselves to be a full service partner to help telecom operators transform, right? From processes to the network towards actually developing these new services that are going to be pushed to their customers and marketing these new services that are going to be pushed to these customers. I joined Dell not too long ago. I joined in January. I was, as I said in the beginning of our talk, I've been in the telecom industry for a long, long time. After 19 years in a big vendor in the telecom industry, I decided to join Dell because I thought that the project looked really, really interesting and that we were doing all the right things to really help transform this industry. And that's what we're here for.
Very good. Yeah, this is a super exciting space, and we've talked about technology that many people listening now will see as already future technology like 5G and proper edge computing and so on. So, but I would like to look even further into the future and to really get your view on what you see on the horizon and maybe what future technologies you are excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's pretty clear that I'm very excited about 5G, right? And I think that we are not even scratching the surface of what 5G will bring to us. Right now, most of the deployments are still focused on mobile broadband, which is great, right? It already helps a lot, but there's still a lot to come on that. And and the part that really excites me and that we didn't touch today yet is on education, right? So how actually these transformation and technologies that are being built with edge and 5G have the potential of transforming education and actually getting advanced education to more people in areas where probably it's not accessible now, right? So technologies like AR and VR combined with 5G, combined with edge computing, have the potential of transforming the way we teach basic education, but also the way we prepare the professionals of the future, right? And as we are talking about, like, going through the fourth industrial revolution, transforming the way business operates and so on, we will need to train the workforce, right? So uh, education is part of the puzzle here. It's probably like the most fundamental one, right? And I see that everything that we're doing in terms of 5G, in terms of AR and VR, uh, it really has the potential to transform education and transform how we are going to be preparing the workforce to operate in this new domain. And most importantly, we'll be able to prepare workforce not only in big cities and big capitals and so on, but with the power of communications, we can take advanced professional training pretty much anywhere in the world. And I think this is a positive thing for basically the whole world, right? So the whole society.
I agree. So I the areas I'm really excited about is education. I completely agree with you, and healthcare. And for
Yeah,
me, the technologies we talked about here have amazing potential to democratize healthcare and education, to personalize it, to make it more immersive. So there are huge opportunities. So very exciting. Thank you so much, Sandro, for joining me today. That was a super interesting conversation. I'm sure we can deep dive into some of those individual areas because 5G alone would warrant, I think, a session. So I hope I will you will join me at a future event and we can carry on this conversation.
absolutely, Bernard. Well, thanks a lot for having me. This was fun, right? So I love discussing these topics. So yeah, looking forward to a next opportunity to deep dive into other topics with you. It's been a pleasure.
Good, yeah, likewise. And anyone who wants to re-listen to this conversation, you can do this on my YouTube channel, where you can also find hundreds of other super interesting conversations on future trends in technology and business. Thank you very much, as always. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye bye.
Thank you.